I think we're live now. It's telling me, yeah. Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Typical Skeptic podcast. I have one of my favorite guests back with me today. She's here to talk about the architecture of this realm, and the zodiac is a hidden matrix mechanism. And that's Ola Wolny. She's the creator of Self Mastery Quest, a platform dedicated to decoding the deeper hidden structure of reality we inhabit. Her work focuses on how human consciousness interacts with the architecture of this realm, emphasizing that the zodiac is merely symbolic, but a function not merely symbolic, but a functional mechanism, a coded matrix system that predetermines energetic pathways, lessons, patterns, and incarnational contracts. Through her YouTube teachings, her private sessions, and her research, Ola guides people through identifying where they are trapped in the zodiac based on programming and how to reclaim autonomy, intuition, and soul sovereignty. Her work merges gnosis, esoteric cosmology, and practical self-mastery. And her website is selfmasteryquest.com. And you guys can check out her YouTube. Her YouTube is at Ola Wolny Self-Mastery Quest. And that's Ola, WLNY, Self-Mastery Quest. And yeah, I'd like to give her a big warm welcome back to the show. Ola, thanks so much for coming back on. How are you?
Hi, Rob. Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for having me back again with a topic that's probably one of the most important things that one should be thinking about in this realm. So I'm very excited for tonight. And yeah, I know a bit of a controversial word, the zodiac, but you will hear it from an ex oil and gas engineer. So I promise you, it's probably not what you think.
Yeah. Well, let's start here. Like when you say architecture of this realm, what do you mean we're like in a simulated holographic reality, right?
Good question. I think it's definitely needs a bit of an exploration because there's the whole holographic terminology gets thrown around, and I think it becomes a bit of an umbrella. So I like to go a little bit into it, and probably from my perspective, what I've seen, what I've experienced mostly when people talk about holographic reality, they usually kind of reduce that to us having just an experience, kind of like in the Matrix movie, sleeping and dreaming. And I don't really see it like that. I feel more that the holographic aspect of reality is to do more with the fact that this realm is controlled by AI, is controlled by certain powers that are using very, very advanced technology. And part of our experience here is very much a not sort of biological, not fully natural, but it is a result of us being programmed, of certain streaming of frequencies being directly broadcasted upon our third eye, upon our receptors, and us interpreting that and sort of translating that onto the reality that we call reality. But in effect, it is not the true full experience, I would say, but it is a experience that it's filtered through the AI, filtered through the programming, the conditioning that we experience. And as you mentioned in the intro, the zodiac mechanism is not symbolic. It is literally part of that architecture, and that's not a good thing.
Now you get this, you draw this from like your study of ancient history and like Vedic astrology, right?
Yeah, I would say that, any kind of astrology, I would say that, if you want to do astrology, please go back to the real astrology, not to the tropical zodiac, as in not the mainstream astrology, which is not even astrology, but yes, going back to the Vedic, going back to the Babylonian astrology, going back to the Sumerian astrology. So astrology is just merely a way to interpret something that we are looking at. But all the astrologies and the ancient astrologies, the science of astrology is effectively giving us a lens into this mechanism. So ability to interpret exactly how we're being affected. And we are being affected as in, and of course you can look into ancient texts. What I'm saying, this is not it's not just based on my assumptions. This is me going through the Gnostic text. This is me going through Corpus Hermeticum, a very very important text, which is the Secret Sermon on the Mountain, which explains actually how to get out of the influence of the zodiac. We obviously we have the teachings of Hermes Trismegistos, where he talks about the zodiac mechanism. We have Pistis Sophia, the Gnostic texts, and many others that refer to, for example, the Babylonian creation myth, Enuma Elish, that refer to the creation of the world and specifically to fashioning of sun, moon, planets as the operating principles, as the mechanism of the this realm, so mechanism of control over humans, which is, by the way, not accidental, and these are not some celestial benevolent powers, as in the way it has been by design created by these beings, by these gods, which, of course, depending on mythology, they are referred to as the gods, the Greek gods, the Sumerian, the Babylonian gods, the Anunnaki, or of course the reptilians, etc. Right? So we're talking about kind of the same group here.
Yeah, that's interesting. We had a comment. We had a question from the audience. So Melly says, "Do you feel like? I'll just read her question. She says, "Do you feel like we're seeing somewhat of an augmented reality? Is that what you would say it is?"
Well, I would probably want to explore the augmented a little bit further. What does that mean? I think that our perception of reality is the augmented part. So remember that we as humans, we perceive a very narrow bandwidth of the visible light, and other animals, cats, dogs, then they perceive so much wider, which means that not only our physical perception has been narrowed down, but also our experience, as in, we see this world, we perceive, we experience this world through almost like a filter, and that filter is very much written in your if you look through the lens of astrology, it is written in your birthday and time. So this is them sort of trying to capture that within a numerology code, within the astrology code, within your birthday. So they are translating something onto numbers and symbols, because this is AI. We're dealing with AI. That's how AI operates. And the augmentation of the experience basically gives it a certain flavor. So what we later experience as trauma, patterns in our life, repeating kind of events, repeating circumstances, as not really living a fully amazing, uplifting experience, but most of the time it is an uphill battle. It is a life full of torment for many, right? It is a life full of that requires healing. I mean, don't we all spend the first 40 years of life trying to heal from what happened, right? And then, and so that's not by accident. And this is nothing to do, this whole notion of soul chose experience. I mean, we have to graduate from that romanticized outlook on pain and suffering, because nothing here has been done by accident. It all has been done by design, by these gods, by these beings that feed of that low vibrational energy that we create as we are going through these very negative traumatic events that are effectively being designed for us to experience, right? That's food, that's the lush, as they call it.
I got a good question. Do you believe that the zodiac is or a part of the zodiac is functioning as a frequency fence? Like, do you think it extends down into Earth, or is it more like controlling us from a metaphorical, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's absolutely not metaphorical. That's the scary part, right? That it's not metaphorical. It is literally, part of the operating mechanism is the moon. The moon not being the natural satellite. There's nothing natural about the moon. When you look a little bit more into it, it's been romanticized as well. This is very much romanticized within the New Age community. On purpose, right? This is part of the deception. So again, we're dealing with a very advanced technology of streaming certain frequency control upon us, upon our nervous system, our third eye, and of course our system is translating these frequencies and translating that onto a day-to-day life, day-to-day experience. So absolutely, when you go back to the ancient texts, they do explain that the planets, the energy of the planet, has been tampered with. It's been sort of tweaked in a way that we are not really dealing with the original frequency of the planets. We're not dealing with the original frequency of some of the signs, as in the constellations, right? The 12 that became the wheel of samsara, the zodiac wheel. We're not dealing with the original energies. We are dealing with something that has been captured. It has been distorted, and it's affecting us absolutely physically. This is no metaphor. We're not dealing with some symbolical kind of representation and archetypes. We are dealing with a very, very advanced architecture. And I think that, this is where one of the main issues lies, that because the architecture is so advanced, people over time reduce it to some kind of symbolic influence, where the influence is absolutely not symbolic. This is far more evil, malevolent effect that is very, very real.
Wow, I agree. And what is the purpose of the architecture? Do you feel like they're harvesting us with it, or do you think it's control, or is it control and harvesting? Would you say?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, why would you control, right? Why else would you control? You control because you want a certain effect out of it. So absolutely, it is the harvesting machine. And again, if you go back to the ancient texts, they don't hide it. It's very much. I recommend Corpus Hermeticum. Have a look into those texts. It describes it perfectly. That this mechanism has absolutely a purpose, and the purpose is to torment the souls and to keep us trapped in the reincarnation cycle. So the souls basically, once they experience that kind of fallen consciousness, because they've experienced so much torment, so much suffering, the next time when they die, that machine, which is the moon, is part of that whole machinery. The soul is being pulled back onto the reincarnation cycle, onto the reincarnation machine, and you get born again onto this earth, which is in Corpus Hermeticum explained as that the soul gets tossed between heaven and earth indefinitely. That's by design. That's their design. The god called Atum, called Yahweh, called Anu, etc., depending on which lens we look through. None of those are benevolent beings, and none of those are any kind of creators, if somebody wants to use that. I mean, there is no God. God has been hijacked as a term to describe these beings. And absolutely harvesting our energy, harvesting they feed themselves with the low vibrational emotions. This is the food. They don't like the higher vibrational emotions, so they create conditions for us to be producing these kind of conditions, these kind of emotions. And of course, that happens partially through them, the news, what they are feeding us with sort of externally, how this world looks like. I mean, look at this world. It's conflict and wars everywhere. But, the little people, right? Us, the end kind of, the end of the pyramid here, we are not the ones wanting to cause these wars, right? These wars are created much higher up on purpose. But so that's the kind of more dynamic, if you like, that's the dynamic aspect of creating low vibrational behaviors and emotions here. But the more static, as in the one that's ingrained deeply into our own subconscious architecture, that is done through the mechanism of the zodiac. And so I'm sorry, I might upset people because there's a lot of people that like astrology, they like the zodiac. I don't like to call myself astrologer just because I know the trait. I don't want to be called an astrologer. I just know how to interpret the code. But let's be absolutely clear about it. It is the code of the matrix. This is not your destiny. This is not your best path. This is not your soul's journey, etc. None of that is really what we're dealing here with. If anything can be predetermined, if anything can be read by a third person who doesn't know you, then is it really that we're dealing with freedom, or are we dealing with something that's very, very controlled and very particular because it is pre-programmed?
Yeah. One thing I think you said earlier, you said that you were talking about some of the different ancient texts, and I think you said the Sermon on the Mount tells us kind of how to get out of here. Was that right? What does it say? Does it say that we kind of have to go within, or because I know Jesus said the kingdom of heaven is within. Is going within going to get us out of here? Is that
you see, yes and no. The Secret Sermon talks about sort of certain powers that you have to use to overcome the tormenting powers of, effectively of the zodiac that we're dealing here with. But I think that some of the language that has been used has been watered down, and it's been kind of tweaked and played with. Go within to escape this zodiac, or to escape the influences, go within. But what does it really mean, right? It's like it's not a very it's not a very good advice. Like what does that mean? So there's a lot of people going within, or they think that they are going within. Nothing is happening. And I think that what I like to do is I like to go back to the indigenous people's teachings, to the teachings that are still surviving in fairy tales, in mythology, because there is a lot of truth, there's a lot of wisdom in those. And I think you kind of have to really pull from different directions to be able to have that picture, what to do to escape it. And really, for example, through the shamanic lines, I just came back from the north of Norway, very, very shamanic area, mostly that kind of ancient shamanic, not so much today anymore because it's been infected with this new age extravaganza as well. But if you do touch something real within the shamanic communities, they talk about touching the fire inside of us. And the fire is not inspiration. That's a misinterpretation. That's what the Gnostics call the ego, right? But the Gnostics, when the Gnostics talk about ego, that's also very often misunderstood, because people think that ego means basically your personality, the kind of traits that you have and who you are. And that's not true. That's not what they mean originally. So when we talk about the ego death as the only way out of this matrix, they're not talking about you giving up on absolutely every part of your personality so that you become this amoeba floating. Absolutely not. They talk about dropping all these matrix hooks that have been installed into us. And that's the fire. So the fire that the Gnostic fire as well, that needs to burn through us. That is us coming back in contact. And I know that I'm speaking a little bit in a convoluted language, but it's kind of coming back in contact with the real field. And the field is not this matrix overlay, not this false layer, but the field is that kind of raw signal, the truth underneath. So we are literally covered in this matrix layer. We are infected. I call it that we are infected with the matrix. Everybody speak about matrix in a context like as if matrix is out there. It's not just out there. It's also inside of us. We are infected with it. So the fire, the Gnostic fire, and this is the answer. This is the answer how to escape the matrix, how to get out of the matrix. You need to let that fire contact with the raw field, which can happen only out there. It's not in front of the computer. Out there, as in the nature. I have my balcony door behind me. In the nature, when this is why the shamans would spend a lot of time out, communing with the not with spirits, not with some kind of ghosts, but communing with the intelligences of the raw field, so that they could be hit, so that this architecture, the matrix infestation, could collapse within them, so that they could be cleansed by the fire of truth. This is what the Gnostics meant. So what does it mean? Well, it kind of means that, the exit from the matrix is not what people think. It is not about having a full bank account. It is not about being safe, within some kind of plan that you have for life, because you've secured yourself financially or in terms of assets. That's got nothing to do with that. And it's not even endless healing. Healing is misunderstood as well. It's more to do with allowing that raw intelligence to really hit you and destroy the matrix overlay. It's a little bit like, if you go back to Avatar, the movie, the first part of Avatar, which talks about the people, right? The blue people, the avatars being so connected to the planet, and they go to Awa, the tree of life, always a motive of the tree of life. And when they create that bond, right? I forgot what's that called in that language, but the bond, when they sort of connect themselves to the Awa, that bond, we're talking about that kind of bond. So Avatar is another documentary. It's not a sci-fi movie. It's not just in the Matrix that we should look for the answers. Avatar delivered a lot of answers as well. So
that's amazing. Yeah, I love this, and this is really interesting. Let me go back to my questions here, and yeah, okay, yeah, well, what's the yeah? Let me see here. I have a lot of questions. Okay. In the zodiac wheel, is it a kind of like a programming disc that we incarnate through, or is it like because like a lot of people talk about the soul trap, right? Like so, like do you feel like the zodiac wheel or the zodiac tied in with the soul trap was like one big mechanism that we're like, or like the moon, I guess, obviously, in the zodiac, like some kind of reincarnation device, maybe?
Yeah, absolutely. So all of that is connected. When we incarnate, every single person comes down with a code, which can be accessed through your birth data, your date plus your time, the exact coordinates, etc. It's a little bit like biometric code. I mean, what they are doing right now is nothing different to what they have done for thousands and thousands of years. They've already been tracking us for forever. This is nothing new. It's just we think that this is something new. No, it's not. So there is a data written about you in terms of your trauma, your conditioning, your programming, your tendencies, your pitfalls, etc., whatever is going to happen in your life, because it kind of functions as an almost decision tree. You only have so many choices. You don't have unlimited amount of choices. You don't, because if you did, then you shouldn't be able to come to me, and I shouldn't be able to tell you about your life, and I am. So that shouldn't happen, because if you have unlimited amount of options, then there would be no way for me to read anything, but I can't. So that's bad news, right? That's evidence that something here is very much controlled and pre-programmed. So absolutely, yeah. It is part of that mechanism, and it is about reincarnation, as in reincarnation into the same realm. You cannot escape this realm until or unless you, as Mary Magdalene says, unless you you cannot escape the matrix after death. You need to resurrect when you're still alive. What does it mean? It means that if you don't know how to navigate, if you have not cleared yourself, your soul, of these traumas, because remember the Book of the Dead, the Egyptian, but also the Tibetan Book of the Dead, they talk about, especially the Egyptian, after you die, what happens? You end up in a position where the scales are going to weigh your heart versus a feather. And if the heart is heavier than the feather, you're going to go back. You're going back on the reincarnation trap, right? What does that mean? Well, this is the most critical, this is the most important moment that people kind of miss. The moment of scales where the God, the judgment, right? The gods pass their judgment. The God passes judgment on your soul, upon your soul. There is no judgment per se. It's just that when the soul comes and the soul is infected with that programming, with the trauma, etc., the soul, the heart is heavier than the feather. So unless you escape that during life, as you are alive, after death, this mechanism is going to be automatic. This is not a question of your will. This is not about seeing the light and not going to it. This is not a question of dying and choosing what you're gonna do. It's the way it's designed on the other side is that you are being measured, or sort of the conditions of your soul are already decided the moment you die. It's not a question of what you choose and the will that you have. No, because you already come with certain conditions. And so it's almost like a gravitational pull, I guess, that you cannot resist. It just will happen. That's why it's so important to undergo this process when you are alive, because after death, it's too late.
Yeah, this is a good question from, I'm trying to put it up. This is a good question from Kelly. And she says here, she says, can you ask her how she feels about those signs as a whole and if she's noticed that? Wait, what? Am I missing a part of her question? Wait, I might be missing her part of her question. She says typo. Sorry, I'll put that. This is a 2-part question, or 2 parts. She says, whoops, typo. She says, but the zodiac signs look like a kind of typecasting to me. From what I've seen, the 3 darkest, most mentally ill groups are Scorpio, Gemini, and Sagittarius. And then she followed that up with, she says, can you ask her how she feels about those signs as a whole, and if she's noticed that, or any kind of input on that observation at all?
I mean, I'm sorry, but I'm not sure if I'm with you on that question. I'm not sure if I understand the question, what the lady means here, but the constellations themselves, okay? Remember that the signs are, the name of the signs, they come from constellations. The constellations themselves, they're not bad. The constellations up in the sky, or whatever we see up there, they're not bad. But some of them, the ones that have been captured into the zodiac, the energy that we are experiencing has been distorted. So it's almost like a lens has been added over certain constellations energies, right, to distort and to deliver a certain type of energy here, so that it affects us. And of course the planets are playing a part in that as well, because it's not just the constellations. The whole astrology is based on presence of planets against the background of a constellation, right? Mind you, which is not tropical astrology. Tropical astrology is a scam. And I am here to say that that's a scam. That's nonsense. That's not even astrology. So we need to deal with the sidereal, with the real position of the planets against the constellations. But to maybe try to answer the question, all of these positions, it's not only these. To me, it's not only certain signs. All of the signs, because there's a difference between a sign, as then sign is that distorted energy of a constellation, right? Because it's then working for the matrix within the zodiac mechanism. They all have a job to deliver. And of course, remember that, there is no such thing as I am a Virgo, I am a Sagittarius. That's just a sun sign newspaper, Sunday morning, I have nothing better to do astrology. That's not astrology. We, in our true astrology code, we have every single sign, every single house somewhere, as in, all that describes us in some kind of context, right? So we have everything. We have every sign, and we have every planet somewhere.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
This is a nice comment from Divine Love 9398. She says, I love this lady. She's amazing. And then Kelly feels like you did answer her question. She says, I feel like she did answer. It's probably more the planet placements controls than the constellations themselves.
Absolutely. There you go. Yes.
Yeah.
It's the planet through the filter, right? It's the distortion already applied there.
Yeah.
And the planets originally were not malevolent either. The energy of the planets was not malevolent either. But the matrix, the way this mechanism operates, it distorts, it hijacks the energy, and it uses it in a very malevolent way. So that's what ends up happening.
Yeah, and while we're going, guys, Jason, one of my moderators, posted your YouTube. Her YouTube is at Ola Wolny Self Mastery Quest, guys. So, guys, go subscribe, give her a subscribe and a follow. And let me see here. Do you feel like, okay, this is a good question or a statement from Melly, and like I'd love to get your opinion on this. She feels like she I'm just gonna put it up. She said she feels like God source gives us the ability to override. But okay, I think there's a God source. I believe that, but I believe we're not in touch with it for whatever reason. I feel like we're I feel like there's a demiurge or something that's like kind of.
Well, I mean, of course, the demiurge is demiurge, right? Otherwise known as the Anunnaki Anu, otherwise known as the reptilians, otherwise known as Yahweh, etc., etc. But you see, the problem is, why do people need God? As in, why God needs to be a third person thing? Because the God, by the way, the word God, if you look into the sort of meaning of and where it comes from, God means it means the one you name or the one you call upon. So what does that tell you, right? And in the Bible, the Bible calls the God Lord, right? Lord. And Lord, when you actually translate that from or archon, by the way, the word archon in Greek means Lord. So the whole Bible is written about God and Lord. These are those beings. Yeah, these are the chief of the beings and the rest of the crew. And mind you, in other books, right, the God is never singular. There are gods.
Elohim,
it's not
right?
just one
Elohim
God.
is plural.
It's plural. Right? It's gods. It's not just one. So I think that we have to be very careful, because the problem is that even if you believe God equals some source, but the word God and the meaning God is already occupied by these beings, which means it doesn't matter what intentions you have. When you pray to God, it doesn't go to any source or anywhere else. It goes to the archons. It goes to to the one that you just mentioned, right? Whether we call him Anu, Yahweh, or Demiurge, that's where it goes. And I don't really understand also why. Look at it. Look how strong the programming is, the religious programming, that we cannot give up the idea of God. Look how guilt sits deeply there. Shame and guilt, favorite food of the archons, by the way. I mean, the religion doesn't come from source. Religion comes from them. Religion is about worshiping them. The one you call God, even with the best intentions, it's been written by them. Amen is a secret name of Amun Ra. Yeah. So when you pray, and mind you, think about it, right? What I definitely do agree on is that this universe, this whatever we are, it is created as in we have fractals here, right? There are big things that look like smaller things that are the versions of the bigger things. And by that I mean, for example, the galaxies that we observe in the universe, they kind of look the same as what you have in your eye, and the pictures are kind of the same. This is the fractal construct of the world, so if of the whole universe. So if that's true, if everything is just a smaller version, right? It's like a repeated version. Then wouldn't you say that we are also fractals of something bigger? And if so, then let's say a woman who gives birth to a child, how does she treat the child? Does she, there's this unconditional love. Many women, many men as well, same, have experienced that, whether that's with your mother, whether that's with your child, right? You would have experienced that kind of bond of unconditional love. And now ask yourself, you as the mother of this tiny little baby, do you require this child to worship you? Do you require this child to pray to you? Do you require this child to, to deserve your love? Or is it just natural? Do you want to give them everything you want? And if that's true for you, then wouldn't you naturally extend that onto something bigger, not a supreme being? Why do we need a supreme being? What kind of programming is that? Why can't we just assume that there is some kind of deeper motherly intelligence out there that has been behind the creation, that doesn't need our prayers? It doesn't need us worshiping it. It doesn't need us praying to it, because we just are, and it loves us, and we deserve everything best, just like your child deserves everything best, without ever needing to beg, pray, prove itself, etc. So I'm gonna play that back, because this is a very, very strong programming, to stick to God and source and sort of personalize it in a way. And I know that probably that's gonna rock a boat and upset some people, but here we are to talk about matrix programming. And unfortunately, God is not great. Very good book.
Yeah. Oh yeah. What's that? What is that? Who wrote that book? Is that what's it called? It's called God is Not Great. Is it?
Yeah.
I gotta check that out. That sounds interesting. Yeah. But okay. So going back to the astrology. So if we do like Mayan astrology or Vedic astrology, it can give us some insight into our life path, right? And like some things that we might be more. How do I say this? Like, what's the word I'm looking for? What things we might be more suited for, or a different, like a life path that maybe we should pursue, right? Like, it can still give like a matrix hack, right? Or no? What do you think?
I would say that to a degree, yes, but I think we need to be very careful how we use that, because remember that the whole point is to escape the zodiac, not to deliver against it, right? So yeah. For example, when I work with people, when I do my readings, the point of the reading is not to kind of tell you what it is that, because whose plan is it? In the zodiac, it's not yours, it's the matrix plan for you. So the point is to understand what kind of cards you have been dealt, what are you dealing with, what sort of tendencies you might have, what where are your talents, etc. Sure, because it's not through that reading we can find out a little bit more than just the bad stuff from the matrix. We can find out also what your soul is coming in with, as in what your soul managed to drag down into this realm, because it's not everything, because that would be unlimited, but it is a filtered version. So yeah, it gives us a little bit of insight there. But overall, I think that the key takeaway is, do not see this as lessons. You have not come here to learn any lessons. The hardships, the challenges that you go through, these are not lessons that you have signed up for. These are not lessons that your soul has chosen to evolve. All that narrative is very, very damaging. And I recommend people maybe going and checking out Tony Sayers' channel, because he talks about the New Age and the whole Earth is a school nonsense quite a lot. And he's very very nicely articulate about it, so much better than me. So guys, if you want to find out a little bit more about that big lie, check out Tony Sayers' channel. He I think he gets censored quite a lot as well. So maybe on Rumble or other platforms. But yeah, he does a very good job debunking that myth, which I stand very firmly with him on that one.
Yeah, that was where I first saw you. Before you came on my show, I first saw you because I've been watching Tony for a while. I'm a big fan of his. What I think is I think it's cool that we all don't believe the same things, or we all might have different ways of looking at things. But I like when everybody can come together and compare ideas and I don't know how I'm trying to say this. To try to get out of here, to try to escape the matrix.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think what you're saying is that we're kind of coming at it from different angles, right? We Tony focuses probably more on that kind of new agey aspect and debunking certain new agey, very dangerous beliefs and programs. I come at it, a bit of an engineer, working out the mechanism itself, and here you are, revealing and bringing guests that are totally pushing the envelope, but all of us are really pretty much, speaking the same language, right? Yeah, absolutely.
And then I wanted to ask you this, does someone reject their zodiac identity, or do they stop identifying with what zodiac identity they've been given in this matrix? Would you say? Can that happen?
I mean, honestly, I would love to say that it's as easy as rejecting identity, but it runs in the subconscious. So, there are plenty of people out there that don't believe in astrology. They're not interested in astrology. And unfortunately, it doesn't mean that they have escaped anything, because these people are very much on autopilot, probably even more, than the ones that are a little bit more conscious. Because if you, for example, come to a reading and you understand what kind of patterns you are running, first of all, what it does is it gives you an insight into, okay, this is not mine, as in, there's nothing wrong with me. It takes a lot of shame, guilt, and kind of, self-punishment from people, because a lot of us, as we are living our life and we are experiencing things and they keep repeating, we start blaming ourselves, right? It's like, there's something wrong with me. What is wrong with me that I constantly, end up with this, or I constantly experience that? And you start, blaming yourself. It's terrible. And then you come to a reading and I tell you, well, actually, I don't know you, but boom, here I tell you, bang, 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 these are the patterns that you're going to be running. It's very liberating, because it makes people feel like, there's nothing wrong with me. There's something really, if this person can tell me these things about me, then maybe there is really something external that's influencing here, and I'm not.
I got a question about that. Yeah, this is a good one. And I think you read my chart before, so but it was a while ago, so I don't expect you to remember. But I keep having relationship issues, and it keeps happening. I can't seem to get in the right, relationship, and it keeps happening over and over and over again. It's always a failed attempt, you know what I mean? And it's it seems at this point I've almost given up. I love women, but at the same time I'm man, this is it's almost exhausting, because you get in a new relationship and then things go good for a while and then it just kind of fizzles out, and I'm oh my god, this happened again, it's why would that be? Is that an example of a matrix program that's running over and over again?
Yeah, it is to an extent it is the matrix overlay, and to an extent you kind of need to understand that, remember that this whole notion of us needing to be in a relationship, and that happiness only comes through certain things, that's also a level of a program, right? Because that's how we are to a degree programmed right now. But if you look back several hundred years ago or 1,000 years ago, it was different. It wasn't always the same. So I do remember you, because you, to a degree, you have, in that kind of context, similar chart to me. So the reason why you struggle there is, for those that actually know astrology, I don't know, do you mind if I share, or?
No, yeah, it's fine. You could share, yeah.
Yeah. So for those who know a little bit, and I remember Rob has the north node of the moon, known as Rahu, in the first house. So for anybody who also has that, this is the trick. First house is about you, experiencing you, and sort of focusing fully on you. Where your comfort zone was, but is not the focus for this life, is the seventh house. And the seventh house is the house of relationships. So effectively, the gravity in this life for you is moving towards you. I call when I see Rahu in the first house, I say this is the James Bond type of placement. So James Bond is the guy who is like, the kind of hero of his own myth, right? He's here, he does what he needs to do. But remember, in every James Bond movie, there is a woman, but there is never a white picket fence. There is never a dog and a happy ending. Do you know what I mean? So it's the thing is that he's more there to do what he needs to do and to focus on that. So the mission becomes bigger than everything else. And this is not to say, so I'm going to give you a bit of a cheat sheet here, okay? Rahu in the first house. When you have Rahu in the first house is not interested in standard, regular, normal, because it already experienced all that in the seventh house. So if you find a woman that just, Jane next door, that's not going to work. It might be fun for a while, but ultimately it's not going to work. So Rahu in the first house is going to allow someone who is non-standard type of relationship, such as, I don't know, long distance, or, if she is much younger than you, much older than you, if there is something unusual about the dynamic, somebody that's just, there must be something that Rahu in the seventh house has not yet experienced, if that makes sense. So this is why you struggle, okay? Because Rahu in the first house is carrying the aura of someone who has that comfort zone in the seventh house, meaning the women look at you and they subconsciously are reading, he knows how to be in a relationship, this is the kind of good guy. But what they don't pick up on, or what comes out later, is that Europe actually are not here to be focusing in the first instance on the relationship. You are actually here to pursue something larger, a different kind of mission. And then when you fully step onto that, then something else can be allowed, but not really a kind of regular like everybody else. That's not going to work.
Wow, man, that in a way that's almost like sad in a way for me, because it's almost like, I don't know, but like that's probably my programming that's making me sad, you know what I mean? But like in a way it's exciting too, but it makes me think that I have a mission here, that I have to
absolutely And this is not, I mean, I don't want to create a myth around it either. I'm just trying to explain to you the kind of what you've been taught into, right? It's you need to kind of ask yourself, because mind you, I'm in the same boat with you, okay? I also have Rahu in the first house. I would, for people who know Vedic astrology, I always check the natal, the sort of the basic chart, and I also like to check the D10, which is the karmic, so-called karmic, or the life purpose chart. So in my case, I have it in the karmic. I don't know, Rob, I think you have it in the natal, but I've done your chart. I did your chart 2 years ago or 3, so I don't remember.
Yeah, it was 100%. A long time ago.
Yeah, it plays out slightly differently, but I know how it is, because I'm there with you. I also don't seem to be able to, fully kind of straighten that part of my life. But In my case, I kind of it doesn't play such a big part for me anymore. And it's also, you need to understand that the only way that things can work for a person with that kind of placement is when you remove the gravity of the relationship from sort of the first plan, and the woman that you choose, she cannot stop you from pursuing that bigger kind of mission that you have. If she tries to hold you back, or if she tries to pull you into, let's just have this cozy nice relationship here, it's not gonna work. And it's not going to work on that subconscious level, which means there's going to be a big blow up, or something stupid will happen and it will destroy it, and you're gonna feel like you are the guilty one, or she's the guilty one, but it's actually your own architecture working against it.
Wow. And is there a way to break programming? Is it kind of like what we do, or is it like, are we destined to like repeat these patterns based on like our social conditioning? Or
no, we're not destined to repeat the patterns, but then we are talking about the kind of the best explanation would be the shamanic kind of not shamanic work, but in the shamanic way, when we're talking about bringing the soul together, because the soul has been fragmented through the trauma, through the experiences, and the more the soul is fragmented, the more that programming holds on us. And remember that to an extent, it's not just programming. This is not just the matrix doing it. It's also coming from your soul. It's just that when it translates onto human experience, you experience it as, oh, this is sad because I want to pair up with someone, right? But actually, on a deeper level, there is something more than just pairing up with someone. So it's almost like, I think if I'm honest with you, I think there is still something for you, because I remember we had that reading 3 years ago, and I told you that there is something that you're not quite hitting yet about. Yeah. So I think that when you get closer to that, and you get more grounded in that direction, I think it will get easier.
Yeah. It's like even like, now this got really interesting. Let me ask you this: is there anything else we need to know about the? Jason wanted to ask about the houses. Jason said he never really understood the houses and how they work, and like, can you explain that a little bit? Like, or is it really complicated, or?
I mean, it's not that complicated, but it kind of depends what you want to know about the houses. I think that the houses have been butchered a little bit in terms of the meaning, because remember that all that context comes from the ancient times, and in the ancient times they operated in a different language. So we are just doing our best to force this language to mean something that means something for us today. But probably to answer the question, I use the Babylonian fixed zodiac. Why? Because this is the zodiac. This is the way the matrix is operating or using, right? Which means that each sign equals a house. So they are kind of overlapping in a sense. I use 12, not 13, and this is a big distinction, because of course I am aware of 13, but that's not the point. Remember that matrix never deals with 13. 13 is a feminine number. It's number linked to exiting the matrix, not the matrix. Matrix is always 12. It's 12 gods. It's 12 tribes of the Israel, etc. There's always a 12, right? 12 is the matrix. 12 is the zodiac. 12 is the wheel of samsara. So 12 is the number, and I'm not sure exactly what the question is about, but yeah, what I use is the house system that sort of overlaps obviously with the signs, the Babylonian fixed zodiac. That's what I use, and the houses, they cover certain areas, but I use the ancient interpretation of the houses, which, by the way, I explained a little bit of that on one of my I have a master class on ancient astrology, and in that master class I explain the meaning of the houses. For example, the third house, house of the goddess. And what does that mean? Because it goes way beyond the contemporary modern interpretations.
Yeah. Let me see here. Melly had a question. This is a short one, and she says, I love the number 13. Where is the Ophiuchus in the chart? She says.
Well, it's not in the chart. That's the point, because Ophiuchus, while Ophiuchus cuts obviously through the ecliptic, right? So it is on the ecliptic, but the gods did not include the Ophiuchus, the gods, the archons, right? They don't include Ophiuchus. Remember that Ophiuchus is, first of all, most of the signs, as in most of the constellations, have been tampered with, where a woman that was underneath the figure or the meaning was replaced by a man, such as, for example, Aquarius. Aquarius originally was a woman, not a man, and the same happened with Ophiuchus. Ophiuchus is not a man holding the serpent, holding the snake. Ophiuchus originally is a woman, but you have to know alchemical secrets, and alchemical, I mean the feminine alchemy, the oldest tradition in the world. You have to know the teachings, the mythology, knowing that what the serpent means, and that only a woman can bear the serpent, only a woman can hold the serpent, because this is to do with the DNA, this is to do with the deeper alchemical teachings. This is why the serpent speaks to Eve, not to Adam. Eve is the messenger for what the snake told, and she communicates that to Adam, but Adam never speaks to the snake himself. A man can never hold the snake. It's a woman. I mean, I don't want to go too much into it, because these are the alchemical teachings. So if anybody wants to explore that, you can find my webinars on my website, but this would take another hour or two. But Ophiuchus was a woman, so very powerful, very extremely powerful constellation, but it doesn't participate in the zodiac, because the zodiac is the zodiac of the gods. So the gods are not dealing with what truly is out there and crosses the ecliptic. They are dealing with what they have chosen for the mechanism that they have created. So that's the difference.
Yeah, and then one last question I have for you is, like, how did past lives tie into this? Like would past lives carry all the resonance into our current incarnation? And do you think we repeat these similar patterns in past lives? Like would it be? Yeah, I don't know.
So
I mean,
I
say that it's like if someone was.
I feel the question. I'll try my best here. So first of all, I think there are two different ways to look at it. One is there are obviously certain areas in the chart that might suggest that there is some kind of past life residue or past life influence. But having said that, some interpret that as just some kind of psychological imprint or subconscious imprint. But to be honest with you, does that really make any difference to today's kind of experience that one might have? Is it a past life? Is it something else? It's something that you cannot prove or disprove. It's one of the things you cannot prove or disprove. To me, the only thing that matters is, okay, we can see what sits there. I know that everybody likes a good story that, they were killed or burnt at the stake, or this happened or that happened. But, these are things that you cannot prove or disprove. I like to deal with things that are here and now. So that would be the answer from a matrix perspective. Absolutely. You probably carry certain residues. Where do they come from? Who cares? In shamanic traditions, they say, in the old shamanic traditions, they say that subconscious is an implant. So everything that you think you remember, everything that is subconsciously planted into you is implanted. It's not even reference to anything else. But from an alchemical perspective, alchemical as in that true power, that true sovereignty, it doesn't really matter, because you are who you are in this life, whether you carry something from previous life or not. And that's what we need to deal with, as in whatever layers or whatever programming you carry here right now. That's the only thing that matters. Where does it come from? I understand the curiosity, but effectively it doesn't matter.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, because we are who we are right now, and we're not. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. Let me ask you this, Ola. We went about an hour, almost about an hour. Like, is there anything else you want to cover? Anything else you think might be important for the people to know before we finish up? Or
I mean, I think on this topic, I would say that I don't really know, what the audience kind of thinks about the zodiac and astrology, but I know that there is a lot of people out there that have been romanticizing astrology. They kind of disregard what I'm saying, and they say that they use astrology for beneficial reasons because it kind of gives them reassurance, etc., etc. The moon is good. It kind of helps them, whatever. Guys, be very careful, because these things are real. These are not it's not something that you have to believe in to be real. You are tying yourself much more to the matrix by following your forecasts, astrological forecasts. That's why I do not offer forecasts. Absolutely not. I can at best do your static chart reading, which is the birth chart reading, and tell you what kind of coach you have been given. But I will never offer, and I have never offered, any predictive astrology. I do not offer forecasts and anything like that, because that is exactly the opposite of what I'm preaching. So I don't do that, and I strongly recommend that you do not do these kind of readings either, because what you're gonna hear there is not your plan for life. It's the matrix plan for your life, and we are here to escape the influences, not to deliver against the plan that's not even yours. So if I just wanted to make sure that kind of that gets passed, because sometimes I think it's not loud enough that how against the whole idea I am, and I want it to be absolutely clear.
yeah. Wow, this is amazing. Well, yeah. Do you want to tell people where they can find you and stuff, and how they can book a session with you or anything? And thank you, Ola. This was awesome.
Absolutely. You can find me on two of my websites, selfmasteryquest.com, where if you would like to have a look at your code, we can do that. I offer different types. For people who don't have their birth time, I offer readings based on numerology. So that's also a way to get quite a lot of information. So if you're interested, I also do feminine alchemy consultations. These are going into the ins and outs of how do we escape these influences, what to do. And my other website, mysticalarcticjourneys.com. This is my absolute baby, because this is where I get to meet you face to face, whether that happens through my open getaways or private getaways. So people have to physically come here to the Arctic, to Norway, because of the backdrop of one of the most spectacular and powerful places in the world, Lofoten, Norway. We do the work. I apply pressure, and you get stripped out of the programming. This is not me doing as much as the land is doing and the energy is doing, and that's what worked for me once upon a time, and that's what worked ever since on many people. So please have a look at those websites, and if you want to reach out, I would love to hear from you.
Well, that was great. And thank you so much, Ola, today. This was amazing. And guys, I'll see you
My
at 5
pleasure.
p.m. Eastern. I'll be back today. And thank you, everyone. And good night. Good afternoon, guys. And